It's time to take the good with the bad. Love it or hate it on Asteroid G. You're listening to Not So Live from Asteroid G. I'm Mike Finkelstein. With me, as always, is
Captain Josh Schaefer,
Queen Bee,
and Bex.
And we are going to be talking today about Wonder Woman, specifically a love it or hate it for both the first and second DC Extended Universe Wonder Woman films. Because, as we were talking about off mic before we started recording this podcast, each of those films has their own interesting points to them. Each of them are, in their own ways, equally flawed. For very different reasons, I will note. But I think we can all come down on the love it or hate it camp at various times for each of these films, and I am curious to discuss why. I think we've actually talked about Wonder Woman on the cast before, but just to go over things, the first movie is about a fish out of water Wonder Woman, Diana Prince. Do they even call her Wonder Woman in the series at all?
I don't think so.
In the film they did, the title's Wonder Woman, so...
Well, yeah, title is, but I don't think they ever give her title in the movie. Maybe in a newspaper clipping.
The name drop.
I feel like they had to have at least been wow, what a Wonder Woman.
What a woman who's a wonder. It's not like they just go out of their way to make sure someone always goes, the Batman. You know?
That doesn't sound like a really good movie.
Well, we'll find out later this year, maybe. Soon. Anyway, so Diana Prince is, well, I guess just Diana, is a princess of Themyscira who lives on that island of the Amazons, and suddenly a man comes to the island, Steve Trevor, played by Chris Pine, and he brings basically World War I to the shores of Themyscira, and realizing that there's danger out in the real world, Diana leaves her island, never to be able to return, discovering her superpowers along the way, and goes and helps them fight and end World War I. Whereby then we cut ahead to 1984 in the second film, and Diana has basically been left pining for Chris Pine this whole time, which it's Chris Pine, who wouldn't? And
oh, the irony.
Oh yeah, I know, right? And
I see what you did there.
No pun intended, I swear. And so a magical treasure lands at the Smithsonian where Diana conveniently is working. And the treasure grants anyone their one secret most desire. All they have to do is wish for it. And we get Maxwell Lord, played by the Mandalorian, who somehow manages to fuse the device within himself and becomes the wishing device. And somehow, for reasons, this leads to Apocalypse. And also Chris Pine comes back because we needed more Chris Pine.
Because who doesn't need more Chris Pine?
Yeah, exactly. But that's the long and the short of the movies, basically. Did I skimp on anything that was really necessary?
No, you're pretty much there.
Yeah.
So this, I actually, 2/3 of the first movie I really enjoyed, and I would say probably about 2/3 of this movie I really enjoyed, which amounts to slightly more than one good film, which, considering the DCEU batting average, is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will admit that I don't know whether I can really come down on the love it or hate it side of the camp here in this particular instance. I kind of be like, yeah, they're all right. So...
Okay, well then,
I'm almost there with you.
Yeah, I can go ahead and I can tell you why I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Okay.
2/3 I love. I actually do. I love the fact that it's a female director.
Yep.
I love the fact that it's a female hero. I love the diversity throughout. Through a lot of it, the first scene with the little Diana and all of the Amazonians who are of all different cultures is amazing to me. But most of them, they follow the whole Greek look. But I love the sets of Themyscira. I think that's all amazing. I love Chris Pine. Who wouldn't?
Oh yeah.
But I don't know what it is, and it could just be DC villains.
Yeah.
The villains fall short.
Yeah.
Why is it they just can't find a good villain?
Well,
is it, or can't write a good villain? Because that's really what it comes down to.
I think it's more like can't write than don't have.
Well, and let's be fair. Like as much as I don't want to be a DCEU apologist because a lot of the movies suck, Marvel also has the issue of a lot of their villains are just not interesting. It's like the superhero companies have problems making villains on screen, and maybe this is part of the thing is that like a good superhero is going to have a long tail of continuity behind them, but audiences expect a villain to get defeated, and I in part blame Batman 1989 for this, get killed at the end of a film, so you no longer have the long tail. So while a hero can get a lot of rich character development and evolve over time, a villain has to get introduced, have their villain plan, and die all within the span of a single film. And that leads to weaker characters, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, something I just thought of is, and I don't know if this is a trend with DC, I'm trying to think of other instances of it being the case, but I'm thinking with Wonder Woman 2, it might, or Wonder Woman 84 or whatever. I mean, yeah, the villain is there to make things happen and plot, but I want to say a lot of it was more Diana wrestling herself, this outer person. I mean, yeah, he's there, but I want to say like they focused more about her choice with Chris Pine, and her struggle with that. So I want to say like maybe that was more the real villain.
Well,
and the struggle with that woman, the other woman who turned into what, Tigress? Cheetah. And her internal struggle with that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think this is something that Becky and I just watched Disney's Hercules recently. And this was a problem I noticed there too. And I think this also applies to, I mean, honestly, it kind of applies to the first Wonder Woman, but it also is really a key to Maxwell Lord in the second. The hero and the villain barely interact with each other at all until the big climax at the end. If you watch Hercules, Hades doesn't even like he's on the periphery and he sees Hercules a few times, but they don't have any meaningful character interaction until like the third part of the third act. And Hercules is like, "Oh my God, you're the villain! I must stop you!" And you're sitting there going, "How'd you make that conclusion? You've only just met the dude. He is a non-entity in your life." And I kind of feel like Maxwell Lord has that same problem. Yes, Wonder Woman sees him from afar a couple times, but like their character interaction is severely limited after he steals the treasure, and there's not a lot of back and forth between them where you can compare that to like Mysterio in the second MCU Spider-Man, where Mysterio has like a personal connection with Spider-Man, or like Vulture, or some of the other ones. Even Thanos, just due to the fact that he shows up over multiple films and then essentially has like the first half of the fourth Avengers film like dedicated to him and his storyline. Like there's a deep connection there with him that's lacking from Maxwell Lord.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely the writing. I didn't mind the actor. I love The Mandalorian, so
yeah,
Pascal is amazing.
Pedro
but
Pascal.
Yeah, and I like Kristen Wiig too. I didn't actually see. I know that some people on this podcast will really bite into the fact that the CGI was crap, but I don't care about that. That's not something that I get all uppity about. I'm pure story. So pure story wise, both movies were way better than most of the DC movies that are out there. I might even argue they're probably better than even the Tim Burton Batmans, which are pretty decent.
Yeah, I don't like the Tim Burton Batman, so that's fine.
But if we're going to talk villains, they need to write a villain like Vulture. I liked Vulture in Spider-Man, so I think by far he's probably one of the best villains in a movie thus far of this type of movie.
I feel like, and I don't know, I'm interested in hearing what Josh and Bex have to say on this as well. I feel like Cheetah was the better villain of the two, even though she was kind of second banana to the storyline, just because she had like an actual connection to Wonder Woman and was the more interesting and fleshed out character overall. She got like an actual kind of origin story, whereas we're like dumped into the middle of Pedro Pascal, and we don't really know what his plan is until he just finally steals the treasure and merges it into himself. But even then, like, we don't really understand what the hell he's getting out of it because it's all kind of vague for him.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree too, and I agree that Cheeto would have been a better villain, or I mean, just considering her to be the main villain as opposed to the other guy.
Yeah.
Because I think, yeah, Pascal was just the guy to kind of keep things moving instead of actually having some kind of emotional bond there. Whereas the gal, like, okay, I mean, I'm all for, gal against gal, and then, I don't know, feelings or something, and things are okay again. But it's like there was a distinct lack of connection between Wonder Woman and this bad guy besides, oh, he's doing bad things. Whereas, there was a bit more emotional turmoil between Diana and Cheeto.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. On the front of CGI, the CGI in the second Wonder Woman is better than the first one because the first one has that awful last act that is entirely Zack Snyder overblown bullshit. And I mean, as far as like how they worked the characters in, Cheetah is worked in really well, which is so much better than Ares, who is just this concept for like five-sixths of the first Wonder Woman film, and then suddenly, oh look, this guy you don't care about is Ares all along, and what is this, a galaxy far, far away where there's only 3 characters and 5 families? Like, what is this? Yeah.
And really, he's been hiding as a British
Yeah.
parliamentarian all this time? I don't believe that for a second.
Ares, what is your goal here? I'm really confused. You're on the winning side, and like, that was just...
It fell apart.
Yeah,
Just,
If you want war, go work for the Germans. Why are you working for the British? Makes no sense.
But I mean, the one thing for movies is when you put 2 villains into a film, the expectation is you're doing it so you can sell toys. Like, that was why Sony wanted 2 villains in every Spider-Man film after the first one, and why all the X-Men films had so many different mutants just crammed in so they could sell more toys. That's just basic Hollywood, like, monetization right there. But what are you going to sell for a Maxwell Lord toy? Guy in suit in 3 different variants? Like, he's the most boring action figure.
Yeah, when I heard that he was going to be the villain, I was like, oh, woof. Like, he's cool. I like him in the comics, but
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
the guy on screen wasn't Maxwell Lord.
no.
No, not from the comics. They got Cheetah okay. But Maxwell Lord that we had was just not like the guy from the comics, and like, it was a completely different character. Which, if they want to put a different kind of villain in there, that's fine. Just don't call him Maxwell Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's just lazy writing.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, but that's the DCEU, and I mean, I credit like Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot wanting to like create a different kind of climax to the film, which I think Josh fell asleep through and didn't bother watching.
Correct.
Yep. But I like the
that
fact
movie
that
was 2.5 hours long, Mike.
I knew I had things to do on Christmas Day. Like,
no, I mean, that's fair. We were even saying that we almost fell asleep halfway through.
There was like, this is okay. Here is the other thing I have with this movie, and this is going to sound really anti-feminist, and I don't mean it that way, but I don't know if that there's any other way to describe what works and what doesn't about this film. Both of them, in fact. The movies are at their best when the dude, like the love interest, is there to balance out Wonder Woman. Like, and I don't blame Wonder Woman, like the character or the action she does or anything. It's just that there is such palpable chemistry between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine, and both movies fall apart as soon as Chris Pine is removed from the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, that isn't to say, like, she could have someone else that she, say a female counterpart at some point that she could play off of too, but it's like, yeah, it's that Pine magic.
Well, it's like if she could have had, after that big fight sequence with Cheetah, which was obviously put in there just so they could have a big fight sequence, if she could have had like a caring and sharing moment with her, and the two of them go up against Maxwell Lord and fight together against him. That would have given, like, that kind of dynamic that we're looking for. Instead of needing the guy in her life, she finds a best friend and manages to, like, learn that that's what she needs to grow as a person, is human connection.
Yeah, and
God, that would have been...
Oh, go ahead. You can.
Oh, I was just that'd be so much better. Holy crap.
Yeah, but I was also going to say, Mike, to save you from, like, an anti-feminism stance, this movie absolutely does not pass the Bechdel test.
No, every conversation Wonder Woman has is about Chris Pine.
Yeah. So, if that makes you feel better, like...
It makes Chris Pine feel better.
Hey, everyone should be talking about Chris Pine. I have seen...
I don't know. It's one of those things where it shouldn't be feminist to where it's like, no, I don't need no man. Like, you can be feminist and still enjoy men and romance and all that. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I'm gonna start getting on a tirade, but anywho.
I mean, I consider myself a feminist, and I agree with what you're saying.
And you enjoy the company of men, see?
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking to one right now. Not you, Becky. I'm talking about Mike. But
yeah.
I mean, unless you identify that way, and then there's two men. That's how it works.
Nope. I've questioned myself. I'm 100% tomboy. I am girl, but dirty.
You're a girl butt?
A girl
butt.
This conversation has wandered.
Nice. Just like Wonder Woman 1984.
The thing is, okay.
That's a segue back.
Yeah, it did wander.
Like, the films struggle with Wonder Woman, and I don't think this is just the Wonder Woman films that we need to think about. This is Dawn of Justice, which tacked Wonder Woman on for most of the film, and although she got some great action sequences near the end, her entire plotline was superfluous. There was also Justice League, which kind of makes her team captain, but kind of doesn't, and, like, I don't know what her purpose was in there, except to be the chick on the team. Like, was there more to it?
I think it was just a way to say that there's someone just as strong as Superman and Batman because they both crazy.
Except there wasn't, because they couldn't solve the problem until they revived Superman.
Right?
Yeah. So, undercut that whole theory. Like, I like the inclusion of Wonder Woman in the series. I like Gal Gadot. I don't feel like the DCEU is serving Wonder Woman that well. These two movies included.
I'd argue that DC's not treating any of their heroes in the DCEU well, so...
I liked Aquaman. And Shazam was a great film.
I haven't seen that yet either.
Shazam was amazing, and Aquaman was pretty decent.
Yeah. I mean, Shazam feels tangentially connected at best. You get like a half-viewed cameo of Superman, and that's about it. But I think that's one of the benefits of that movie, is that it could just shake off all the cruft that came with it and be its own thing, whether it was connected or not.
Yeah. And my thing is, like, and I think I'm judging the DCEU a little harsher because I love DC comic books, as you know. And they started the DCEU, I think, a few years after Marvel started their extended universe. And Marvel provided the perfect blueprint on how to make comics into movies. And Warner Brothers looked at the billions of dollars that Marvel/Disney was making, and it was like, nah, we're going to do the opposite.
We're going to ignore all the lessons of it and just try and rush right in. Yeah,
like, you know, Marvel had planning and story and character development. And even though, like, as you said, the villains were a little lackluster at best, but like, they still did a good job on a couple. Like Killmonger, I think they did a pretty decent job with, and Vulture, like B said, I loved Vulture.
Honestly, Killmonger is probably the best villain they've ever had, and it's a disappointment that they actually killed his character, even though it works for the character himself. Like, I'm sitting there going, can you just find a way to blip him back into existence? Because he good.
I'm really, really hoping that the Thanos snap somehow will be explained on bringing him back. Don't know how, but it's magic, so it's
Multiverse of Madness. I'm not going to spoil anything for what just happened recently in WandaVision, but, like, they have ways they can, like, play with the multiverse and do things. They could bring Killmonger back if they really wanted to.
They could, yeah, they could.
Yeah.
And I'm so very happy about WandaVision. I was very excited when I saw that.
It's already proven to be, better than these two movies so far.
Right?
So.
If you're gonna make a female superhero, DCU, pick up a comic once in a while, will you?
Actually, pay attention to your backlog of shit that Wonder Woman has done.
Right.
Yeah.
There's so much more to go with this, and they're doing the same stuff that they do every time in Hollywood. You're right. They're just trying to sell toys. They're not interested in actually telling a decent story. Although 2/3 of both of those movies are pretty decent.
Yeah. So and I guess that
and I think that's because of Gal Gadot.
Yeah, and Chris Pine. The two of them. Like the smartest thing they did was find a way to, through stupid item magic and plot convenience, bring Chris Pine back, which normally I would be completely irritated by, except their chemistry is what drives that film. And whatever reasoning they want to come up with for bringing him back, I am on board.
Well, how many times can they really bring him back?
It's a comic book, as many times as they want.
Yeah, like it's a comic, and I look forward to the next one. Please, God.
Wonder Woman present day. Oh, look, Chris Pine's back again. Dude, go home.
I think somebody who is Chris Pine, but actually is a villain.
That'd be
great.
Ooh.
Yes,
that would be great.
Yeah, because they use his face and his personality against her. That would be a villain right there.
That would work.
Yeah,
that would work amazingly.
And then you have character development. Yeah. See, I like.
And
that.
you know he could play evil.
Oh yeah,
he's just waiting to play evil. He doesn't get those parts, but he is waiting to play evil. You know he is.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to
the. How this has a little bit of everything, a little bit of love it, hate it, a little bit of just review, a little bit of writing it.
Well, I look forward to the inevitable Star Trek Mirror Universe movie where Chris Pine gets to wear the goatee.
Nice, yes.
So, where do we all fall on these? And we can go around the room or whatever, but love it or hate it for each of the two movies.
I'm gonna side more with the love it. Because I don't want them to stop using Wonder Woman. I want them to write a better villain.
Yeah.
And I really like Chris Pine as well. So if they can figure out how to put another Wonder Woman movie together and include Chris Pine somehow, some way, they will get my money. So I'm going to say love it.
With an asterisk. Bex.
Pretty much the same thing for the same reasons, because it's not. I didn't really hate it at all, except for little parts. I mean, my dream would have been to kind of mash the two Wonder Woman movies together in that, where one failed, the other was better, and vice versa. So I don't know. I'd watch more. An unenthusiastic love it.
Josh?
So is that wait. Is that like marriage?
Not entirely. I mean, I actually like my marriage.
My first marriage, maybe.
But
okay, your first marriage was God.
Sorry. Tangent. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, I love the first 2 acts of the first Wonder Woman movie. I thought everything was awesome, except for the Ares plot hole. And I don't know what it is, and I think I said this in a different podcast too, where I just ranted about it when I'm just sitting with my wife, just talking about random stuff that I hate. But the electric guitar riffs in the Wonder Woman franchise, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't mind it.
Yeah, what is that?
Yes.
It takes me out of all the scenes. I'm like, oh, this is badass, and it's like,
no.
I'm like, oh man, like they didn't have electric guitars in World War One. What are you doing? But
oh man, I'm on the other side of that. I loved it. Every time I hear it, I get all like amped up.
Is
Yes.
this the traditional Amazonian electric harpsichord? Is that what
they need a mandolin? I'm sorry, but like outside of the movie, I love it. I love the soundtrack, but it's just in the movie, it's like oh, she's
yeah, that's pretty valid.
yeah. It's just in the context of that, but so like I think the first one I'd give like an 85%. Which is like a thumb and a half up, maybe. But the second movie, I don't know.
Where's your thumb again, Josh?
Huh?
I said, where's your thumb at again?
Well, halfway up some hole. I'll leave that to the imagination. But
Ew, not my imagination.
Too late.
You can't take that back. But the second movie, I really wanted to like it. I was really excited for it, and I didn't mind any of the actors or the acting, but I don't know, it was just kind of cringy at parts, and it was so long.
Well, and I think...
And Maxwell Lord would have worked as like a 2-movie character arc, like if he showed up and then he finished his arc in the second or even a third or a fourth movie. But I don't know. And I didn't finish it, so I can't really comment on whether I hated it or love it, but I don't really feel like I want to finish it. So
that kind of indicates...
I don't know. Josh, if you can't get through the movie, I'm not entirely sure you can say you love it. I love the first 15 minutes and then moving on.
Yeah.
Well, I think the second movie was betrayed, in part, because it had such an incredible first trailer for it.
Yes.
Yeah, that one set to Blue Oyster Cult that like made it look like it was slickly produced and had a very tight and focused plot line and made Maxwell Lord look like a really evil villain when he's just kind of a muddled maybe kind of guy. Like the trailer people did a fantastic job of selling you on the movie. The movie people didn't live up to the trailer.
I think that's actually the perfect way of explaining what I'm feeling.
Yeah. But
I was bamboozled.
You were. The first movie, my big issue is that entire last act after they've gone through the no man's land, point of no return section. None of the film lives up to that action sequence. And I mean, I've gone back and watched the first Wonder Woman a couple times, but I've gone back and watched that one like 5-minute sequence, I don't know, 10, 15 times, because that's such a great action sequence. And you're just sitting there going, yeah, if that could have led up to then the castle sequence and they could have just fought the Nazis right there, not Nazis, but pre-Nazis, right there, and then whatever was going on with Ares could have just been like carried over into maybe this film and then the next film and make Ares like a story arc instead of tying him up right there. That would have fixed the Ares issue. That would have fixed the entire last act that just goes on and on for no reason. It's a lot. It's like this movie has to come up with some, Incan or Aztec god who has, like, power over destruction and everything. You're sitting there going, is this just Ares by a different name? Like...
Right?
Yeah. It all leads back to DC's bad plotting, which, in the fairness of that World War I film, I had the same issue with Captain America. I felt like there was too much story for a single movie in his first film set during World War II, and if they could have just split it out over a couple or 3 movies, or distributed things better, then that Captain America movie that was good would have really been great. And the Wonder Woman movie that was kind of average but decent could have really been great if that last act was just completely different.
Fair enough.
I come down on the love it-ish for the first one, and I don't know, I'm divided on the second one. I think I need to watch it again at some point down the road and see how I feel now that I know what the plot line is and that it doesn't live up to the trailer.
So you're open to dating the movie, but you're not really interested in making a commitment.
I've done this with other films before where I have expectations for the film based on the trailer. Mystery Men is one of those films, that dumb superhero comedy from the mid-90s, that when I first saw it, I hated the film. But, that was because the trailer sold it to be something different humor-wise than what it was. And once I knew what the movie was like and I went back and watched it again with different expectations, I love that film now. So I think maybe with different expectations, I could like this movie better. I'm on the fence about it right now because the parts I liked don't quite balance out the parts I didn't.
I see.
Yeah. So it's just right now it feels like yet another failure in the long line of failures of the DCEU.
That's fair.
Yeah. So which just makes me believe once again we need a solid reboot of the DCEU, and hopefully with a Flash and Flashpoint, DC doesn't fuck it up, and we actually can reboot all the stupid Zack Snyder stuff out of continuity, fix a bunch of the other stuff, keep the things that work, which is basically Gal Gadot and Shazam.
Yeah.
And
I will say that Robert Pattinson, as much as I don't think I like him too much,
yeah,
that Batman trailer looks pretty sick.
it looks interesting.
Like
a young Batman starting off is fine, and if they keep it separated from the main DC continuity, I guess that's okay, but it's kind of weird for movies to have like so many continuities going at once. That's not something we're used to. But I can tell you, one fix they could have done that would have sold me on it instantly. Change the name to Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Then you just make it future set, even if it's not like as futuristic as actual Batman Beyond, and I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm accepting this now. That's cool. Go for it. So. Anyway.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah. We got anything else to say about the DCEU or Wonder Woman?
They need to read their backlog.
Go through all the old issues.
Yeah, just start reading, people. Get some new ideas. Because...
Start at the beginning. More Wonder Woman bondage. That's what we're looking for.
I'm not going to argue with that, but I'm not going to say I approve either.
And I'm not joking about that either. That's seriously what the early comics were all about. Josh can attest to this.
Well,
100% true.
Yes.
I did watch the movie of the gentleman who created Wonder Woman, so...
Yeah. He had a bondage fetish, okay?
He did.
She has a lasso she ties guys up with, but if she is somehow bound in any way, shape, or form, she loses all of her power. He just liked tying women up and then being tied up in return, which, not judging his kinks, but it does certainly flavor the early issues of that series.
Yeah, no, that's just equality, right?
Yeah! Certainly much more interesting than just making her the secretary of the Justice Society like the other comics did, which is stupid.
Ew.
Yeah, it's dumb. So, this has been Not So Live from Asteroid G. I'm Mike, not judging your bondage Finkelstein.
Josh.
Queen Bee.
And Bex.
And we will see you next time.